around. And what I will also say that whenever we are asking these questions, we will start understanding ourselves better and understanding what's working, what's not working, and then also gives us hopefully the necessary answer as to how to proceed from here, rather than feeling like, oh, I need this, I need this, I need whatever, 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 and then never really coming to a decision, right? What would you say, Vicky?
Yeah, absolutely. And here we are addressing a very important point, Asel, because you will never make or you never be ready to do things that scare you. So for most of us, doing this, taking this such a decision to leave the aid sector and to do something else or to move to another country is a major decision. It's a decision that concerns, of course, as we talked about it, identity, so many different changes. So there is so the assumption is that the majority of us, and actually from the questionnaires or from the interviews that I've been doing with humanitarians, I can say that more than 95% of people asked were afraid. So definitely there is fear. But we have to come to this stage where, and this is, I believe, will be present for everyone, is that be in the fear and not run away, because this is, I believe, the very subtle moment why people are not taking decisions. So I would encourage our viewers to really be with this feeling of this is scary and I don't know, and explore this feeling and not run away, not to say, oh, I'll take it tomorrow, I'll take it next week, or find an excuse. And I would like to go a little further here and encourage our viewers again to investigate what is the narrative in your head, what is the message that keeps popping up when you say, oh, I'm not ready, right? What is the message? Oh, I need to have more information, or I need to feel this or that. And as we've talked already many times, the feeling of stability during this transition will not will not be there at this moment. How are you
Exactly.
seeing this, Asel? What other tools do you think we can give our viewers?
So one of the tools that I love, and I think this has been maybe used in so many other coaches toolkit as well, and you may have heard it, but the way that I always want to like get rid of all the overthinking, all the fear and all of this is, if I could do all the things of what I want to do, how would I do it? Or which one would I choose? Right? So if I had the freedom, we always start from the magic land, but that's a reason for it, because we want this fear factors in our brain to loosen its effect by going into the like ideal scenario basically, and say,
Mhm.
if I really had the money, if I really had the possibilities, if I really had XYZ, how would I really make a decision, or what would I really choose? And that's really the truth that we have within, but we oftentimes hide it and deny it because we just really are afraid to make that first step, right? So that's why once you understand your truth, then sitting with it and not making it like, oh, it's supposed to be very complex, or it's supposed to be like life and death situation,
Mhm.
or don't do that, but just sit with that decision, with that truth of, yes, if I really want it, or if I really could do anything, I would do this. And then once you have that, that's really the decision. And whether you recognize that or not, that's the truth. And once you have that truth, then you can decide how to make that work around it, rather than keep focusing on the lack of, or rather than keep focusing on how it won't work and all the things. Because
Yeah.
those questions will always be there, and that's okay that they're there. Like Vicky was saying, that fear will always be there, and avoiding that will never help. So that's why being with that fear and befriending that is always important. But once you know what's the actual truth within, then I think it makes it so much easier to then decide, okay, this is the next step. And even if you don't know all the steps, and that's okay too, right? But just going the next step and doing the next step. And then as soon as you start doing the next steps, even in your mind, then you will have even more and more confidence to keep going and doing more rather than thinking to yourself, okay, I have to figure out all the things and then, because I think the other thing that we complicate is we keep saying things like, oh, I have to have a perfect vision. I have to have all the list of my values figured out, or I have to have, I don't know what else, right? Or whatever else that you are like saying that I have to have in then. What if
Mhm.
that's not really the case? Like Vicky was saying, that we will never be ready if we come from fear. Because fear will always say
Yeah.
no, right? And that's its job in a way, because the fear has us being in a comfortable place. So then
Yeah.
knowing and understanding that and saying that, yes, I hear you, my fear. I know you're taking care of me, but I also want this thing. And how do I get there? By taking the next step and the next step if you're afraid about figuring out all the things. And the other thing maybe that I was speaking about this in my podcast recently, and you will hear it tomorrow actually. One of the things I was thinking about is that always approach decision making from the powerful place of you can make things work. Because I think otherwise it will always be like, oh, because of this, because of this, because of this, I can't do. And it's so easy to get into that narrative, like Vicky was saying, of like, oh, because of this, I
Yeah.
can't do. And then we just like create our own cage within our mind and then we just stop ourselves.
Mhm.
Instead, always making a decision from, I have the power, I have the resources to make things work no matter what I choose.
Mhm.
And I think once we have that like reassurance within our brain's like, ah, okay, then we won't die, so everything's okay.
Mhm.
Rather than, oh, you see this problem, this problem, this problem, and then we get like all the list and we get overwhelmed and we keep overthinking things and then we just don't make a decision. Yeah. What else? What other tools, Vicky,
Yeah.
would you say?
Yeah, thank
What?
you. Thank you. Absolutely. And I can just really reiterate what you're saying about the different narratives that keep on popping in our heads, the reasons why I can't take a decision. It's really important to be aware of the narratives and really to start changing the narrative. If you have a permanent narrative in your head that says, oh, I can't take a decision until I have this financial amount, or I can't take a decision until I know this skill. So really, we are unable to go forward unless we start changing this narrative. So that's another step, to really write down the narrative and start changing the narrative in your mind. Because if it stays the same, if our subconscious is extremely powerful. So if we continue telling ourselves the same thing over and over, then obviously we are not going to get out of this situation, and we will never take a decision. So it's really important to be aware of the narratives in our head. And the second thing I would also mention, and you keep referring to it, that really it's a place of that taking decision from a place of feeling powerful and being empowered, I would say. It's important also to know whether this decision is coming from your mind, from purely your mind, and also the
Mm,
intuition. And it's maybe not. It doesn't matter what you like, whether it's come from your mind or from the intuition, but it's important to know how you feel, because sometimes when it's coming from our minds, it can often be associated also with fear, and here we might find ourselves in a maybe a conflicted in a conflicted sort of a situation, that mind is saying something and then our intuition is saying something. So we really want both, our mind and our intuition, we want them on one line, because once they're aligned, that's a powerful decision. So really see where is this, if there is any misalignment anywhere there, it's important that they're both aligned. If they're not aligned yet, it's okay. You work towards that. But when they're both aligned, you know, you feel it. As they say, you feel it in your bones, and you feel it in your gut. Sometimes we say, right, that this is the decision. That's really
Yeah,
what I would say about taking a decision.
amazing. Yes, and the other thing that I was thinking that could be relevant, and I think I have like two examples that I want to share. One is that I have a client now who is saying that the one number one reason why he wouldn't make a decision is because he's afraid of regret. And I think we have all
Mhm.
gone like been there and
Yeah.
in one way or another, even if in our private life maybe, right? So like if I do this and then I will regret it later, and then how am I going to return and all the things. And if that's the case, I really would love to offer that feel that regret again, like because you know what
Mhm.
that feels like, because your body obviously like stored that information, right? And feel that regret.
Seems to be frozen. Don't know. This is my end. Okay, so this seems to be frozen, and I'm not really sure if this is recording or not. Um, we will wait for Asel to come back to continue with the discussion, and hopefully the connection can be restored as we are talking about decisions and decisions that influence our transitioning. And we have had some connection issues, so I will wait for Asel to show, to pop up.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry about that. We're back. So it seems like it's a recurring theme on my end. I apologize.
that's
But
okay.
what I
It
was
seems so good.
but what I was really saying is that so regret always comes, and it's not really scary on its own, but I think what's more scary is the way we treat ourselves when regret is there. And we're scared of that. And I really would love for you to explore how you treat yourself when you're regretting, how you talk to yourself when you're regretting, right? So that could be one of the reasons why you're not making decision, because you're telling yourself if you make the wrong decision, God forbid, you will basically punish yourself. And let's start removing that punishment as we're making that decision as well. And this is what we talked about in the past, but I really want you to explore like if you did make a decision, what comes up, right? What fears and what all the things come up, and how do you treat yourself while all those fears come up? And a bit like what Vicky was saying about being there with them instead of like running away from them. That would be one thing. And the other thing is, the example I want to say is from my own private life where I like think about once I broke up with someone in my private life after 6 years of relationship, and I remember the moment when I made the decision, and then I broke up, but then I wasn't really firm about it. And
Mhm.
then the next time I did it, I was very firm about it. And I was thinking, what's the difference? Is
Mhm.
because the reason why I was very firm the next time is because I realized I rather preferred not to be in that relationship than slowly killing myself in that relationship. I mean
Yeah,
emotionally, right? Obviously.
yeah,
Um and that was the reason why I said no, this is enough. It's like an abrupt decision, but I want to do that. I stick to my guns and I will do this no matter what happens. And I
Mhm.
think that's also another possibility for you to think about. Like, decisions don't need to be a long, arduous process if you don't want it to be. You can also say, like, a bandage, right? You rip it at once, and
Mhm.
then all the things come up after, and the healing and taking care of getting ready will come up probably after, but that line needs to be made. Like, at
Yeah.
some point we need to make that line and say, okay, enough is enough.
Mhm.
Now is the time to start making actions, movement towards what I want, rather than
Yeah.
keep wishful thinking, keep thinking about all the things
Yeah.
of what could go wrong, what could be da 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 da, but rather say, no,
Yeah.
now is the time, and I go from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love what you're saying because it's really a fantastic way of changing perspectives, which are always super helpful. So, if again, one of the tools that is good for any situation, but in particular this situation, is really changing perspective. So if I'm looking at my issue, at the issue of transitioning, and I feel stuck, and that's why I'm not taking a decision, let's look at it from a different perspective. And I love the question what you said, because one of the questions was, oh, things that could go wrong. What if things could go well? And how does your life look like 1 year from, like, let's say you take a decision. It's like, the sliding doors movie, the two
Yeah.
parallel scenarios. So what happens 1 year from today if you stay where you are? How does your life look like in 1 year? And how does
Yeah.
it look like in 1 year when you take a decision? And I would like really to our viewers to feel into that, to feel into that. Maybe you don't have an image of what's going to happen exactly, but feel into that. What if you stay in the situation you're in? How is it going to feel? And feel into 1 year, and you are going, and you may have a different job, different country, you may be taking a sabbatical, whatever that is, different team. You might be maybe have a baby, maybe you have a partner, and whatever that is, really feel into that. And I think these are really important exercises, changing perspectives and feeling into these different situations, because this is a really really good guidance, because how you feel is you eventually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And maybe the last thing that I would say from my side is that if taking a lot of different decision overwhelms you and you think like, oh, I can't really make big decisions because I'm not the person who takes big
Yeah.
decision, right? We have lots of different ways of people thinking about this. If that's the case, I would love for you to suggest that you take one issue you think is
Mhm.
the issue in your life and take decision on that. Like, for instance, if you say, oh, I never have time for myself, right? Imagine that's the issue, and you're not even, you don't need to take all the decisions of, oh, how do I transition and all the things, but just start with that and say, okay, I want to make my time this year for myself in the time that I said I would. For, like, I don't know, that's like an example, right? How do I make sure that that happens, even if my boss is the same, my colleagues are the same, they always come the last minute to tell me this is report is due and you have to like sit through the
Mhm.
whole night and all the things. Even if all of those things are to stay the same, how am I going to take time for myself in the midst of that and be with myself and do things that I want to do, right? That decision alone could already start changing you, and say, once you notice the effects of it, then you'll realize you can like make decisions about every other aspect
Yeah.
little by little. And
Mhm.
that way you will already start the transitioning before you even change anything externally, right?
Yeah.
What would you say, Vicky?
Yeah, very interesting what you're saying. It like the last phrase that you mentioned is that maybe just labeling it, I need to take a decision, might be
Mm,
overwhelming. So really taking small steps, and before you know it, actually you have already started transitioning without
yes,
really necessarily putting the label on the process. So it
yeah,
might be for some people that really the label, or what we call it, might be might be overwhelming, and usually all this is a gradual process. It's not one event. So you might find yourself that in a few months or even a year, you have actually started in transition to do something else. And I'm seeing it with some of the clients I used to work with, that it's small decisions. It's small decisions
Yeah.
that, you know what, I'm taking a sabbatical, and I started volunteering, and maybe I don't put a lot of pressure on myself. Just let's see how it goes. But it's already a lot of experience. You're learning something new. You are already,
Yeah.
you're already maybe not on the other side, so to speak, but you're really getting to the other side, if we want to talk about the other side, having made a transition. So really, sometimes. I think it's usually small steps, not one huge
Yeah.
leap. That is, maybe I
Exactly.
would also add this, just realizing that we are not talking about one major decision, but maybe series of smaller decisions that lead to eventually having transitioned out of the aid sector. What do you say,
Yes.
Asel?
Exactly. And maybe the other thing that I want to speak to some of our humanitarians, because I was actually yesterday in a dinner with my amazing
Hmm.
humanitarian friends coming
Hmm.
from Yemen and Jordan. So anyway, and one thing that I realized is that there are also some of our humanitarians who have been in the sector for like ever, feels like, right?
Hmm.
It's of course not
Yeah,
the number, it's more like a feeling game of being
yeah,
always there and also wanting to stay always there. Like it's the full
yeah,
identity of this is my life, this is how it
yeah,
is, and that's amazing.
yeah.
And I also see them saying like, but there's still this issue, there's still this issue, and there's this and this and this, right? And I feel tired, for instance. I heard like them saying a lot of
Hmm.
that. And whenever I see like this type of friends, I also want to say we are really advocating for you to make that environment a good one for yourself, right? So
Yeah,
transitioning is never about leaving or not leaving, even though that could be one
yeah.
of the consequences. But it really about, even if you decided that this is your institutionalized identity or this is your life, and amazing, and you are clear on that. So within that clarity, how could you make decisions around certain things that you keep thinking is a problem? How can you make a decision around that so that you enjoy the ride for most of it, instead of still feeling like, well, here I can't really do because I'm already too experienced to know that it won't change, right? Or I'm too experienced to know that this is always like this. And that just suggests to me that we're not really taking a new perspective and we're just letting our past experience dictate how we're powerless, which is not the case. But let's use that past experience to also say,
Yeah.
we are so experienced that we are ready to change things the way we want to, right? We are so in the authority mode now that we can actually make the change because also other colleagues, other junior colleagues are looking up to us. Other junior colleagues are looking up to how we do things, how we keep doing things. And if they see us being these people who say, oh, it's again the same, or oh,
Yeah.
I'm tired, or whatever, then I'm sure we're not really giving that
Mm.
powerful message to our junior colleagues that says, no, I am in this position now where I can actually make the difference for my private life while working with the
Yeah.
organization, while doing all the things. So that's why I would love, like, don't deter yourself because you have been in the system for so long, because you know the system so well, that to
Mm.
say then, oh, this is just how it is, but instead, how do I want to make it to the environment that I want in that environment?
Yeah, absolutely. So whether you want to stay or whether we want to leave, really the choice is yours. I really, it's important that to have all the to be conscious of the both situations, and we're not advocating for you to leave if you're happy where you are, but really, as you say, to say that. This never changes, and it has always been like that. I think it's one of the fatal phrases that is really very destructive ones, I would say.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And also, we know that that happens for a reason, right? Because we don't want to be frustrated over and over about certain things, and our brain, I think, wants to automate things so that we just label it as this is how it is. And it
yeah.
has some benefits, and I don't deny it, but also it has some negative consequences, especially if it
Yeah.
keeps you making like in this mood of it's again, and that's just like you keep telling yourself that I'm not powerful enough to make the changes
Mhm.
within my own environment, even though maybe I may not be able to influence the whole system, but I can do something about myself and about my life in that environment, right? So that's really what I'm saying. Okay, so I'm so happy that we have started this season of
Yeah.
applications, and we want to discuss all of this with you in the monthly meetings. So come with all of your challenges, all of your questions. You drop a line saying that you're interested, so we send out the invite to all of you. And yeah, so let's start applying and making decisions. What would you say, Vicky?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm super excited about this. Do send us some messages or questions if you have any other issues regarding whatever. If you want to share your story, if you want to come live and share your decision making, you're most welcome. We of course will continue with this subject and we'll be diving into questions of maybe indicators, maybe what do I need to decide, what's so difficult about decisions. So this month is all about decisions to help you to make the best decision for yourself. It is we are not
Yes,
helping you to make a decision to transition, but to make the best decision for yourself, whether it's transition, whether it's to stay, whether it's something else. So really, what this is, we're hoping to help you out with this. And thank you so
exactly.
much.
Thank you, Vicky, and thank you all for viewing this, for being with us. Excuse me. And we will see you next week, the same time, the same day, to dive into more. And then in the end of the month, to discuss with you all of those questions you have. Until then, have an amazing start of the year.
Yeah, amazing year.
Thank you. Bye.